Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Beatriz and I am the event director here at Ace Campus Food Pantry. And today we are going to make banana bread. Fun fact about this banana bread is that the recipe belongs to my friend's grandma. So this is a very simple recipe, and along the way I'm just going to show you some tips that you can do to spice up the banana bread. So yeah, let's get started. So we're going to start with preparing our pans, and you're going to want to have this kind of bread loaf pan. It could be either metal or glass, it doesn't really matter as long as it's just like a bread loaf pan. Or you can probably use those brownie pans that are like 8 by 8. I don't think it really matters. So you're going to need some flour. Here's my flour, it's all-purpose flour, and some butter. I'm going to use regular butter. You can also use margarine. It doesn't really matter, it's not really going to affect that much. So we're going to take our butter knife and probably get about half a teaspoon. Probably half a teaspoon, or just like this little nub. You're probably not going to use it all. And you can wear gloves if you want, if you have any, but you don't really need to. And all you're going to do is just spread it throughout the pan and make sure you get it all covered. I just finished buttering the pan, and this is what it looks like. So you see all, like, as much as I can is covered, all the surface area is covered, so that way it prevents the bread from sticking to the pan and easily comes out. So next is we're going to take off our all-purpose flour, and you don't really need a ton of flour in here, just enough to cover it. So then what you're going to do is you're just going to shake the flour, tap it around, and just make sure it adheres to that butter that we just put on. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to try to tap out as much as that thick coating as I can, and then throw away any excess flour that we have in here. So here's all my excess flour, and I'm just going to throw that away. So here's our prepared pan, and we're going to set this aside, and we're going to start making our batter. Moving on to the batter. So what you're going to need is you're just going to need one bowl. You don't really need two, just get one bowl. And you're going to need some measuring spoons, some measuring cups, a whisk, and the spatula. What I recommend a spatula is not to get the ones with those little divs in the center. I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes some spatulas will have like a little div that pops out, and I usually don't like those because the batter will get into those corners and you just lost some batter in there, and it's kind of annoying to try to get those out. So I do recommend like getting a flat spatula. Mine's from Christmas, got it on sale. That's a good time to get these after Christmas. And next, the ingredients part is we're gonna need some eggs, some baking soda, some salt, the same flour we used earlier to prepare the pans, and then we're gonna need some butter. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our stick of butter. This is about half a cup, and this is the one I used earlier to prepare the pan, which is fine. You only lost like a few grams of it, or not even a gram. And so we're just gonna you wanna make sure it's soft, so you're just gonna throw it all in there. You want to make sure it's soft so that way it's easier to mix. Unless you have a stand-in mixer or those hand mixers, then it'd be easier to mix, but I don't think a lot of people would have that. So we're going to do the traditional arm and muscle type of whipping. Next we're going to do is sugar. We're going to use a cup of sugar. You can reduce this to about half a cup if you don't want it that sweet. I guess I suggest not to go any less than half a cup, otherwise you kind of change the composition of the baked good. So we're just gonna measure out a cup of sugar. You have really sweet bananas, and that also contributes to the sweetness of the banana bread, so you could reduce this amount and it'll still be sweet. This much of sugar is good, so I'm just gonna throw it in there. And then you're going to take either your whisk or your spatula and just go ahead and get in there and whip it. So let's cut it. So our butter and sugar are combined. It could be more creamed together and more fluffy and paler, but we're not machines and we don't have the stand-in or hand mixer, so this is the best we could do. And so it's combined together. It's not really light and fluffy as it should be, but that's fine. Not everyone has that equipment. So next we're going to add 2 eggs. So you're just going to take 2 eggs, and what you can do to prevent the shell from coming, because I know some people may get the shell in there and it may be annoying to get it out, and if it does get in there, you can just use the shell and it will just like, it's like almost like a magnet, so it'll just attract to the shell and then just come out without you having to stick your fingers in there and try to get into the yolk and be slippery and everything. So when I crack an egg, this is a trick I do that kind of prevents eggshells from falling in. So you get your eggs and you just hit them together and it will break, and you just go ahead and add it in there, and there's no egg shell that fell in. Use our next egg, and we can either like if you only have 2 eggs, you can just like give it a good whack on the counter and that's all you need. You just need some good force, but don't hit it hard enough to where you just got like egg yolk or egg on the table. So I can just do that and just give it a good whack. It may seem some fell out, but that's fine. It's not like a big deal. Now I am mixing the sugar and butter together with the egg. Random tip on how to hold the whisk so your arms don't get tired. Your arms will get tired and then you'll have shoulder like pains. But what I learned is you just like hold the whisk like this, the handle, and then just do it like in this motion. Just tuck it in more towards your body, and it should prevent your arm from getting tired and your shoulders from hurting. So I guess that's just a random tip on how to whisk without it hurting your arms. You get this like scrambled looking type of texture, like soft scramble. This is where we're going to stop. And at this step you could add vanilla if you have vanilla. We don't have vanilla, and I'm keeping this recipe pretty basic and then just telling you where you can add extra ingredients to spice it up. And I'm just keeping this very basic so for in case anyone who doesn't have these extra ingredients. So you're gonna set this aside for a second and then grab your flour. It's all-purpose flour. I think I said that before. And a lot of people will just take their, so we're gonna need 2 cups. A lot of people will just take their cup and then just scoop it in there, but the issue with that is that you're kind of packing in the flour, especially if your flour has been sitting out for so long, and eventually you'll just pack over time. And then you'll be adding that to your dough, and then it will just create this like kind of more dense, dry product, and you don't want that. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna grab a spoon, fluff up your flour so it becomes more lighter, and this will help give you like the average amount of flour that's normally in a cup, because then it'll give you like a more even product. Just gonna fill over your 1 cup. And you're going to grab just a knife with a kind of smooth surface. It has a little bit of a curve on there, and that's fine. It's no big deal. I mean, and just go ahead and move your flour around to cover any like pockets that you didn't cover. Make sure it's all in there, and then just glide it over, and then you just have about the amount of average flour in a cup. Go ahead and add that in your mixture, your wet mixture, and go ahead and repeat for another cup, because you're going to need about 2 cups for this. Add that in there. Then Next, we're going to add baking soda. So you're going to take about a teaspoon. So there's my teaspoon. I'm going to put it in there. Add that in here. I'm going to also add some salt, which will help like enhance the flavor. The salt is kind of broken here. And pour it. So about a teaspoon of salt. Level it out. Add it in here. You could also add any spices you may have, such as cinnamon, allspice, ginger, cloves. You can also add that in here. That would also enhance the flavor of your banana bread. If you don't have it, it's fine. This is again a really basic recipe. And then first go ahead and combine your dry mixture together so it's evenly combined before you go into your wet. And then once it's combined, go ahead and start incorporating your wet and dry ingredients together. You can also use a spatula if you don't want to use the whisk because it may get stuck in there like that. But go ahead and switch out whenever you need to. And it may become dry. I mean, it will get dry and you may be wondering that it should be more wet, and yes, but it will thin out when we add the bananas, which has a bit of liquid that will thin it out. We have mixed our batter together. As you can see, it's thick, and this will thin out slightly with the bananas. And so we're going to use 3 bananas today, and the type of bananas that you want for this are these really ripe bananas. You may think that these have gone bad or anything, but they actually haven't, because they have a lot of sweetness they developed over time. So you do want these like really brown bananas, and you can get these at the pantry here, and we'll have bananas for you. And if you do get bananas from here and they're not ripe yet, you can go ahead and just let them sit out for longer if you have the time. If not, go ahead and put them into a bag, and the gas that these bananas produce will be trapped in there and cause these bananas to brown even faster. So you can do that with avocados too. Just go ahead and stick a banana and an avocado in a brown bag, and the next day you should have a ripe avocado if you do get a underripe avocado. So we're gonna use a plate and a fork, and just go ahead and peel your bananas. Just peel your bananas, put them on the plate or bowl, whatever you decide to use to mash them. And you can save these banana peels for compost if you do compost it, or you just throw them away, but these will be great for compost if you do want to start doing that. And I'll do them one at a time so that way I can get them really fine. Once you're done with that, you can add your other banana, or you can do this all at once. I just like to do it one at a time to make sure I really get a fine banana texture. Unless you like chunks in your banana bread, then go ahead and leave that. Okay. Last banana. Oops. So our bananas are mashed, and then we're going to take our batter and add our bananas in here. So we use about 3 bananas. Try to use as much off as you can. Don't want to waste ingredients. And in this stage, you could also add some chocolate chips or nuts if you're into that and you don't have a nut allergy, and that would also be great to add in here. And now we're going to fold in the bananas with the batter.
What's the difference between folding and mixing?
Folding is more gentle and is more commonly used in like making meringues or anything with egg whites that are more delicate and have air incorporated to them. And it's like taking a bath. You know when you have all these bubbles and you go ahead and whack it and you just like basically popped all the bubbles? That's the same concept with folding like egg whites into like a meringue or such, or like to an angel food cake, is that by mixing it you're kind of de-aerating the eggs, so that will cause you to have like a flat end product as compared to folding, which is more gentle and reduces the amount of de-aeration. But you can also mix in here if you want. You just don't want to over mix your batter. Go ahead and mix it. So our bananas are incorporated into our batter, as you can tell, like compared to previously, that it's more loose. That extra moisture from the bananas really thinned it out. And I brought over my prepared pan we did earlier, and I believe this can make about 2 now that I'm looking at it. So we're just going to get our batter into the pan. Maybe 2. You can fill it up more if you would like, but I think I'm just going to do it halfway and make some smaller banana breads. But you can add the whole thing if you want a bigger one. It will just take longer to bake. At this stage, you can add some, like if you added chocolate chips, you can sprinkle some on top, or some nuts if you added in here. Like you can add some walnuts, pecans, hazelnuts, I guess, if you want. I didn't bring any nuts, so ours is pretty simple. And you can also add some oatmeal if you do have, like, if you do eat oatmeal and you want some in here, you can add some on top. And so now we're going to put this into the oven. I preheated my oven to 350, so 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is going to go about 50 to 60 minutes. But when they do give you a time range, always go for the lower time, because you can always look at it and adjust the time that you might need it, compared to if you go over time and you end up with like a burnt or dried baked good. So we're going to check after 15 minutes, put this in the oven and check about 15 minutes.
And so all 4 of them, very fast.